The shrink said I should start jotting down my previous cases. Said it would help with my PTSD or whatever the hell it is. This is gonna be only a collection of what I call my most harsh cases. To put it lightly, have you ever seen a paranormal donkey show? Hope to baby Jesus you haven't. That's enough to take any man out of the fight. I still have nightmares of that one. I want to do this chronologically for you guys, so you can determine whether or not I need therapy. Because quite frankly, I can't stand the sumbitch. The first case I want to talk about is my first encounter with an Oni. If you're not familiar with what an Oni is, Google it. I'm not here to explain monsters or nothing. This is the last case I worked with my partner, Rosco Jr. Stood about 2 foot nothing and had a coat of the purest gold. The best buddy I could ask for, honestly. He was even the best man at my wedding. That's a story for another time. Rosco Jr. and I pulled up to this hole-in-the-wall motel, the kind you pay by the hour. Apparently there had been some otherworldly drug transactions going on. We got called in to manage the situation. I went in properly equipped to deal with most problems. I won't need to tell you folks much. You've seen the TV shows. Salt, iron, you name it. I had old Sally by my side. My sawed-off double barrel. I've had her since I started. Never let me down. Of course, I had other things. I'm getting off track here. When we pulled up to the motel, I had Rosco Jr. stick out behind me as usual. Never wanting to put him in the shitstorm first. We walked up to the door. Room 113, if memory serves me. And the minute I went to knock on the door, a wave of what the fuck blew right through it. Seems some vamp wanted a refund and got the business into some demonic go fuck yourself. The minute the body flew by me, I flowed in, guns blazing, put both shells in the son of a bitch. It didn't faze him. That's when Rosco Jr. stepped in and jumped on the bastard. While they were struggling, I broke out my secret weapon, a family heirloom of sorts, a blessed knuckle duster with holy inscriptions etched on all the sides of it. Just as I donned Old Glory, the drugged-up bastard tossed Junior off of him, and I went to town. I swung in, and the bastard caught my hand, twisted me around and wrenched on my arm like he was going to be his new trophy. That's when Junior went for the throat. He was caught mid-air by that Oni, and with a single squeeze he ripped right into Junior's neck. His cry still haunts me. Something came over me after that. Just a sudden rage. I don't know exactly what happened after all that. Still a little hazy. What I do remember is I was sitting on the chair, head in my hands, with what I'm assuming is the Oni's mutilated body next to me. It looked as if it were ripped apart and turned into goo. Shattered bone everywhere. It was just gruesome. As always, I called in for the cleaning crew and had to wait for them to show up to give them the rundown. I lit a smoke and I cried. Yeah, I'm a grown-ass man and I wept like a little schoolgirl. Sue me. Rosco Jr.'s corpse was lying there, eyes glazed up at me, with a look of, sorry man, I tried, stilled in his eyes. The clean-up crew came quick and worked their magic as usual. Couldn't tell there was any supernatural paraphernalia anywhere. They take the bodies into a lab for analysis, just to make sure the suspected paranormal was taken care of. Still haven't gotten lab results back from that mess. I scooped up Junior and had him ride shotgun one last time. I cried that night, burying the best buddy I've ever known. Never had a partner after that. Just talking about that night fills me with rage. There's not enough revenge in this world that could take this pain away. Junior, buddy, if you're listening, I'm trying. Well, I think that's all I'm gonna say tonight. I just got another call.
Roscoe here again. This case happened about a week after the Oni incident. A little explanation, I think, is needed before I get into my part in this case. Human trafficking was taking its toll on this community. Many children have been going missing, from 16 to as young as 6-year-olds. Local authorities have been working these cases, even setting up traffic control points across the town. Hell, you couldn't get in or out of town without going through one of them. My point is that they had security everywhere to ensure someone would be caught. I've even been brought into the station a few times. Apparently, being covered in blood is suspicious. Every endeavor ended roughly the same way. My superiors call the station and gives them what for. Oh, I never mentioned who I worked for. Technically, I can't talk about it, as I signed an NDA. However, I can tell you that the X-Files isn't the only game out there. Okay, back on track now. Where was I? Oh yeah. After my superiors contacted them, one of the local officers had asked me if there was any potential of the supernatch happening to these kids. I couldn't say for certain, but if something were to come up, to give me a call. I handed the young fellow my business card and continued with my day. I set up in this community as kind of an overwatch for the missing kid cases. These have been seen all over the country, and this town per capita had the most cases. 17 kids in less than a month. That's normal for a single community, even in the case of human trafficking. This has a finger nest written all over it. But normally they're sloppy and leave something behind. I couldn't make sense of any of it. Even a stakeout at a local elementary didn't pick up anything. That's when I got the call. It wasn't HQ like I had expected. No, it was Cheryl Rooker, loving mother of Eleanor Rooker. She got my number thanks to that dipshit deputy, thinking I might be able to help. Now, as a grieving parent myself, I understand the wanting to cover all possibilities, no matter how crazy they may seem. And I, being the gentleman of sorts that I am, told her that I'd take the case pro bono. Not that the agency had me out here anyways, but now that I have a direct line into the shit, I might as well take the opportunity. I make my way over to the Rooker residence. I was greeted by Cheryl, and she had informed me that Eleanor had taken from her room upstairs in the middle of the night a few days past. She allowed me to go up there and search for anything that could possibly lead to finding her. It was obvious the police were already here. They left this place a mess. DNA and fingerprints all over the place. I had to dig deep in the room, and of course ask her for permission before I did what I needed to do. Now before you guys start name calling and calling me an asshole for doing this, the one thing you should know about vamps is when they hunt, and not for food, they leave a mark in the victim's area or persons. Either a carving, maybe even a pheromone, something to signal a group to come pick this one up. And if that's the case, then this is bigger than I'd hoped. I began tearing into the closet, checking every nook and cranny, throwing everything into the hall that didn't belong in there. When I finished in the closet, I tore into the dresser. Maybe a set of clothes had something on it, or even something etched into the drawers. Nothing. And then I ripped apart the bed. That's when I found it. Right under the bed was a carving of what I'm going to assume is the Nest's family crest. It's a symbol to pick this child up and make her their own. The symbol was a shield with intricate dragons and a flag with stripes on the right and a crescent moon and star on the left. This is the family crest of Vlad Tepes. You know, Dracula. Yeah, he's real. We've been after that sumbitch for eons. About damn time we catch up to his nest of his. He fled what is now Romania back in the 1800s. He took up shop here in the States. He's been bouncing through communities ever since. This isn't a history lesson. That could be another time. That crest was a symbol I was afraid of. She had been taken, but not for food, to be turned. I had to tell Cheryl her daughter didn't have long, if any time at all. Of course, any parents in distress doesn't take the news lightly. And Being the gentleman of sorts that I am, I had to console her and give her the old "I'll find your daughter if it's the last thing I do" shtick. Yeah, if I could find her. This ain't no normal Fang clan I'm up against. They are keen on turning masses instead of just eating like smaller nests. They have also been known to kill their own. Hunting them down wouldn't be easy. Informing HQ did no good. All I got was a good luck speech, and maybe reinforcements will show up. I knew that all I could do was try and find and save Eleanor. If I was her only savior, I was going to need to get creative. When I got back to the room I was staying in, I started putting together some of my extra components that I lifted from HQ during my last visit. Thanks for that, by the way. I managed to hook up bait to trail cams and spend a good portion of the night placing them throughout town with the help of Deputy Fuckface, of course. I then proceeded to have him sit with me through the night, parked at the town hall just in case I needed to perform some less desirable acts. As much as he didn't want to, and with the constant bitching and complaining, I finally had to have a come-to-Jesus meeting with him. He already knew enough of what's out there. He's now accountable to help stop it. If it can be stopped. Whatever it is. We spent a good portion of the night monitoring the cameras, making sure not to disrupt the bait. Oh yeah, the bait. It was just raw meat. Regardless of their cause, a Fang still gotta eat. Half the hung bait was injected with a neutralizer, one of my own concoctions. I will not disclose the recipe. If we were going to find little Eleanor, we needed to hijack one of them things and get them to talk. Knowing that this is the Tepish clan, I'm sure my threats are nothing compared to Vlad's. I have to think on my feet. Can't let them get comfortable. It will need to be an on-the-spot interrogation. I had spent most of the time preparing Deputy Dumbass for what he'll encounter, and if he gets his ass bit, I'll have no choice but to put his ass down. I'd expect the same for me, preferably painless. Now, something you guys need to know about what kind of shit show we're getting ourselves into. Fangs in general are a nuisance, too damn strong and too damn fast. But the Tepish clan is that on steroids. These are an elite family, and they don't just turn anyone. Some of the most sadistic figures in history have been members of this clan. I'll let you guess. If you guessed Jack the Ripper, Ed Gein, or H.H. Holmes, congratulations, you get a cookie. These are some of the more crafty and strategic things around. Our only hopes is that we catch a fresh turn and hope they talk. We caught some video feed, but it was pretty apparent that they knew these were setups. Shit. Now they knew someone was on their ass. Good thing Lady Luck shined on me that night. We managed to inoculate one of them with one of our drug bait cams. It was 6 blocks away, so we had to act fast. No doubt there would be a search party for all members real soon. I had Deputy drive while I hoofed it. Not that he needed to know why at the time, but if there's already a gang of them up there, by the time I made it, he could have drove off and led them away. Well, good thing that didn't need to happen. Deputy What's-His-Name was parked across the street when I made it to the down vamp. We loaded him into the trunk and drove off to a public pool. Now, if you ever need to get information from a Fang for any reason, using baptism as a threat is a great way to get info you need. We hung the Fang upside down over an Olympic-sized swimming pool that I had blessed with a wooden cross with the blood of the Pope. Yeah, he donates blood. Great guy. Once the Fang awoke, he started spouting absurdities, as most would do in his situation. I wasn't fazed though. The look on his face when he realized the amount of godly oh fuck he was hovering over. Man, if anything were a Kodak moment, this was it. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty proud of that one. Of course, he gave me all the information I wanted. He had no choice. I even made him a deal. If he could make it to the side of the pool, he was free to go. I cut the sumbitch's rope and watched him boil. Needless to say, he did not make it. So now we knew the location of the girl, and apparently Vlad himself asked for her. He was supposed to be on his way to town. Fang also said that she wasn't to be turned until his arrival. She was being saved for him. He's not due in town for another day. That bought us some time. She was located at the port, locked in a shipping container. Rolling patrols are day and night, both Fang and human combined. The tricky sumbitches were blending in with the workers. Great way to remain unnoticed. This is where Deputy Dickhead may actually be of some use. I had him go get a warrant due to suspicion of illegal drugs coming into port. That was actually true, but not my jurisdiction. While he was off doing that, I was back preparing our advance on the port, checking maps for avenues of approach and possible diversions required for such an extraction. Shock and awe wasn't going to cut it this time. We know Fangs will be there by nightfall for shift, so daylight would be the best chance to infiltrate. We won't be able to extract during the daytime due to the cause of the warrant and the lack of knowing who is who. We don't need any loose ends. So I went ahead and prepared the old shit bag with all the standard Fang essentials. Hollow point holy water bullets for a standard issue 9mm. That way we're both covered and nothing is visually suspicious. Chainmail under the shirts for bat prevention, and some tasers, silver blades, and UV flashlights. We were going for an in and out clean operation. Nothing lethal to prevent the risk of next day media freakout. HQ won't be sending a cleanup crew for this one. Deputy whatever picked me up in his squad car and we were on our way. Once we arrived to the port and flashed the warrant, we were allowed to investigate the containers and grounds with supervision of the portmaster, of course. Unaware to myself that we were being led away from the container, then out of the absolute blue, Deputy Dingleberry surprised me. He went off about obstruction of justice and that he needed to have all containers open for inspection. That got the portmaster on the radio fast as hell. When he was getting them all open for us to see, I noticed in the distance that one container was being hoisted by the crane. Once I clocked the number on the side of it, and we inspected a handful for show, we went on our merry way. Container number 1477. We prepared for our advancement for nightfall and staged out a few blocks back, watching to see who's coming and going from the port. Must have counted at least 24 heads clocking in. No clue on which ones are Fang. This is going to be a bigger pain in the ass than I thought. Once shift change was over, Deputy Woods-Nuts and I sprung into action, hugging the wall, leading to the gate, waiting for the opportunity to slide in. Now, I know some of you still believe that Fang has some super sense of smell and hearing, that they could have been alerted to us. First of all, you are correct. Second of all, I didn't account for that. Not that I wasn't aware of the shit show, we were just out of time. We needed to be silent as possible, so the UV lights were our way in. We fired the faces off a few Fang while entering the gate. They screamed until I plunged a silver blade in their heart. Minimal casualties went out the window right then. We still utilized the silence, making our way through several groups of Fang as we made it to container 1477. It was placed all the way in the back, near the crane. We could see it opening as we approached. Little Eleanor ran out of there as fast as she could, straight towards us. She looked fine, a little dirty, but overall safe. Man, was I wrong. She ran so damn fast and latched right onto Detective recently deceased, tearing through his throat like she had been starved for weeks. Right then I knew this had to have been her first meal. Completely sloppy. Once she had him on the ground and he quit squirming, she jumped off in a gaze of, oh fuck, wrong one. Apparently, I was the target. Just then I got knocked over the head and blacked out. When I come to, I was expecting Vlad to be there. Nope. Just some Edward lurking thing that was way too into tween novels. Apparently Vlad wasn't supposed to be there at all, and she was just bait for me. These some bitches wanted information on the organization, and according to Twinklefuck, I've been on their radar since I came strolling into town. Now doesn't this beat all? All this time and all I needed to do was get busted. It does break my heart about poor Eleanor, though. Of course, they attempted to beat the information out of me, even threatening to turn me. Hell, I'd be all for it. There's a half-vamp fellow that works for the organization that busts skulls left and right. I'd go for a leg up any day. Well, needless to say, all their abuse and threats were for nothing. Except one. Eleanor. She couldn't have been over a day turned, and her bloodthirst was increasing by the second. They were going to make that little girl feast on me, and I couldn't have that. Those bastards had her come into wherever the fuck we were. God, she still looked like the sweet little girl. Blonde curly hair and blue bows. The works. The worst part about it, there was nothing I could do about it. She gave me that sweet childish smile, like she was just given a pony for her birthday. And just before she went in for the first bite, she shot me a wink. Then, she dug in. First, she went for my chest, and that hurt like a motherfucker. And after a few seconds of her chomping, she clenched onto my throat. I didn't feel it first, but after a few seconds, a wave of extreme pain overwhelmed me and I passed out. Now obviously I woke up from that. I was in a shallow grave, hungry. Son of a bitch, she turned me. It's gotta be why she shot me that wink. I was intended to be a meal. As I crawled out of what would have been my final resting place, I headed to the port. Apparently now they can smell me. As I approached the gate, I noticed the calendar on the wall of the guard shack. It's been 2 fucking days. I need to see if Eleanor's still here. And as I make my way back to where the deputy and I first encountered Eleanor, I was stopped by some lone fang. He just started welcoming me to the family, saying I need to feed before the night ends, to make sure it sticks. To make sure what sticks? Well, apparently vampirism is temporary, unless you feed. I had no clue. I don't know when it'll wear off. All I know is I'm growing hungrier and hungrier by the second. I had asked where everyone was. Apparently, they were over at the crane. Makes sense why they're moving it away for her inspection. I need to get to Eleanor. I made my way to the crane. I still approach with caution. Most of these assholes think I'm dead. My only hope is just to waltz in and prepare for a shit show. The difference is, I'm stronger and faster this time around. I gauge my surroundings, looking for anything to use as a weapon. And all I managed to find was some scrap metal. Shit, as long as it had a sharp edge, I don't give a shit. I head into the base level of the crane. Now there were only a handful of them. Now they didn't seem threatening. I took the weapon into my pants and I'd asked where Eleanor was. All I got was a finger pointed to the top of the crane. I thanked the fang and made my way to the ladder. I was abruptly stopped. Apparently, this was going to become some game of death situation. For those of you who catch the reference, thank you. I whipped out the piece of shit I found on the ground and I went to town on these worthless fangs. The amount of power I felt at that time was terrifying. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on how those poor bastards were ended. Let's just say it looked like the prom scene from Carrie. And I went my merry way up the ladder. The main control room was empty, except for Eleanor. I started in on my profanities as to why the fuck was I turned and how she was dead meat. She hushed me pretty quickly with the tears in her eyes. She pleaded to me that she hates this feeling. She only turned me because I was already there to help her. She needed me alive to help her. She already fed, so there's no going back. All she wanted was to see her mother again. She's gonna let me do her in, no questions asked. She only wanted to see her mom one last time. I can't tell her no. last request and all. I didn't really have to sneak her out of there. No one really knew what happened in the crane that night. Before I took Eleanor to see her mother one last time, I had to call Cheryl and tell her the news. Her daughter was on death row, and I was her executioner. I had to give a pep talk to Eleanor as well. She had to fight back her hunger if I was going to allow her to see her mother. She nodded in agreement, tears growing in her baby blues. Luckily, the car was still parked at the spot I was staying, and I grabbed a few necessities. During our drive, she had mentioned that she knew she was meant for Vlad. I didn't know why, but she didn't like the sound of it. I kind of shrugged it off, kind of my way of saying it's not her problem anymore. I shot her a smile and told her to keep her chin up. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm having second thoughts on killing this little girl. We pulled up the drive and asked little miss if she was ready. Before we reached the door, she had asked me if I had to put her down. I teared up a little bit. She was just too damn special. You know, how can this little girl get to me like this? Oh yeah, she turned me. I at least had a way out. I couldn't say anything. We reached the threshold of the doorway, and Cheryl swept the door open before I could even knock. Of course, tears began. Incoherent apologies between the both of them, so loud I couldn't even think straight. I kept my cool. I stifled my hunger the best I could, but Eleanor had other plans. All she said was, "Please don't hurt us, Mr. Higgins," just before she bore down onto her mother's neck. Not gonna lie, I didn't see this coming. I panicked and I tried to pry Eleanor off her mother. You know, for a 6-year-old, she has pretty damn good grip. Finally, she released and just looked at me with her mother strained on the floor. She said now she doesn't have to be apart from her mother. God damn it, this was too much for me, especially after Rosco Jr. I had to get Eleanor and her mother out of there. I loaded her mother's soon-to-be undead corpse into my trunk and had Eleanor ride shotgun. I had to call this into HQ. I managed to get them into a witness protection system under the agency, under the condition that they helped them get Vlad. The last time I saw that little girl, she just smiled at me and shot me a wink. It's been quite a while now, and I'm still feeling some side effects of being turned. I only hope that when time comes and the agency catches up to Vlad, that they don't run out of a use for Eleanor and her mother. Hello everyone, Rosco here again. So the therapist said I should stay with the course of action of jotting down in here in my journal, or in my case, telling all you lovely folks about my life. Apparently, I have made some big improvements. I'm glad to continue the stories for you all, but on one condition. Stop leaving your panties on my doorstep. I don't know how you got my address, and no, you can't have them back. This case was worked on by accident. I was on vacation, or paid suspension, if that's what you'd like to call it. Apparently, HQ wasn't very happy when Deputy Rest in Peace had been devoured by Eleanor. Now, according to them, my tactics are less than desirable. First of all, you asshats, I called for backup. You were the ones that dropped the ball on that one. Second, the perishables that I swiped from the labs were a gift. Only saving grace I had from that case was that I was able to convince HQ that Eleanor and her mother could be of some assistance chasing down Vlad. Honestly, this case of wrong place, right time might have prevented my termination from the agency. It was only a few days into my vacation when I heard the circus was coming into town. Now I haven't been to one since I was a kid. I decided to go indulge for once in my damn life. Get some popcorn and some candy, and go check out the trapeze and clowns. What's not to love? Well, you'll find out soon enough. The days recently have been kind of a blur, as I still had vampire venom flowing through me. It's like having a hangover while going through withdrawals at the same time. To be both sick and starving at the same time is terrible. Luckily, it generally wears off by late morning. And no, I haven't fed yet. The urge to had died off a day or two after the incident. When I first stepped into the big tent, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy punched me in the face like I was in a prize fight with Mike Tyson, and I was losing. It was immediately strong, and of course my fat ass went and got some before the show started. And of course, the vendor was a goofy-looking clown with blue and white face paint, with the expression of pure happiness across its face. Never made a sound, just mimed everything with smooth gestures. It was a bit unsettling. I took my treats to the top of the bleachers and waited for the show to begin. The lights cut out, then BAM! Instant music and clowns raced into the center of the ringleader circle. They danced and played, running around wildly, getting everyone excited for the show. Music rang out like it was an orchestra. The trapeze artist flew across the sky on wires, then smoke filled the tent, and the lights cut out again. A single spotlight shined into the center on a chunky man with a coat and top hat. He looked like Danny DeVito from that Big Fish movie. I honestly thought it was him for a second. The show started with a monologue from the ringleader. Apparently, this is a story-based circus. The narrative was that of a little boy that ran away from home to join the circus. As he was speaking, a group of clowns came in acting out the story. They had to pick a child from the audience to play the kid. The child that was picked was some scruffy-looking boy resembling Linus from Peanuts. Couldn't have been more than 9 years old. They introduced the kid through what I assumed was interpretive dance. Elegant clowns danced around the kid as the ringleader continued the story. I wasn't paying too much attention to the story. Kept my eyes peeled on that kid. He didn't seem right. He seemed scared. As the clowns danced around him, he would wince and flinch like he was gonna get attacked. If I didn't know any better, I'd say those were signs of distress. Detective instincts kicked in, but before I could leap down for the rescue, a boom of smoke came out of nowhere and the child vanished. Now some fuckery is happening here. I just know it. I'm supposed to be on vacation. I don't have any of my equipment with me besides my knuckle duster, and I take it everywhere. I decide to continue watching the show. I noticed on the bottom row that the clowns secretly took the parents with them, perhaps to find their kid. The trapeze artist moved about fluently, and almost in a hypnotizing way. One swayed like a pendulum, while the others on each side twirled almost in place. It was beautifully done, but I know hypnotism when I see it, and these bastards are doing it on a large scale. The ringmaster is still down below, doing his show narrating thing. I'm kinda glad I haven't been paying much attention. I looked over the crowd and see everyone just foaming out the mouth, and their eyes are glassed over. Now I beat feet to the back of the bleachers to remain unseen. Something is going on, and on top of all of it, there's a child missing, along with his parents now. Fuck me. Suspension or not, I need to figure this out. I stayed under the bleachers until the show was over. Everyone seemed to file out of the big top systematically. Nothing like a big crowd after a long event. It was perfectly synced, how they would file, almost like a zipper closing. All of them had their children though. So they targeting the kids? Fuck. The lights clicked off. It was my chance to move. I moved carefully to the back side of the tent. There was a commotion. A few of the clowns were arguing. It wasn't in English or any other human language. Fuck. Is this going to be a killer clowns from outer space type of thing? I used my car keys to poke a hole in the tent to get a look. See a red and yellow faced clown, seeming to strip its skin, shedding almost. It took form of the little kid. God damn it. Changelings. These bastards must be integrating with the entire town. Who knows how many kids are taken? That just means there's a nest nearby. I don't have any help on this one. I can't trust anyone, and calling into HQ will only cause more of an uproar, as I'm not supposed to be conducting any official business. I am insanely under-equipped, and my little knuckle duster ain't gonna do a damn thing against a nest. I can't do anything without knowing where the nest is anyways. I might as well pull recon and get intel on these chameleon fucks. The clown boy thing took off. Assumption is that he is joining his new family. I might as well do my best to tail him and get intel. Fucking up one is much easier than attempting to die against hundreds. Luck would have it that I still have vamp blood flowing through me, so I can still move fast and have subpar strength. It is a considerable leg up than just being normal. I head my way as quietly as possible to the parking lot. Gotta get to my car. If they see it at all, they'll know there's a straggler and not keen to getting caught. I made my way to the bushes just outside the tent, and let's just say my luck ran dry. My car was surrounded by a handful of the clowns. Well, I guess I'm on foot. They may have my car right now, but they sure as shit ain't getting me. I book it to the woods. It's my only shot to GTFO, as you kids would say. As I clear the woodline, I hear a few of them give chase. They can't catch up, so I'm not worried, but now they know someone knows, and they will most likely have whoever in town is one of them snooping around. My best bet will get this over quickly. No time to purchase supplies. I have to break into the hardware store and see what I can come up with. I don't have time to get the kid. These bastards are gonna be on their A game. The clowns are tailing me, but I haven't kept pace. There's no use in hiding. As I break through the other side of the woods, come across a main stretch of road. I can see faces of children peering at me through the window. Not gonna lie, that spooked me a bit. Who knows how many of the town's kids have been changed? Is that the correct term? Fuck, I can't remember. All I know is that at this point in time, I know that I've been spotted, and it won't take long for them to know my location. I run as fast as this vamp blood will let me, all the way to the hardware store. Now I waste no time on the door, I just smash straight through it. The agency could pay for the damages. I gather anything flammable, and cloth, and packing peanuts. Some simple supplies for homemade napalm. Some fireproof blankets, and some propane bottles. Piping and an ignition. Homemade flamethrower. Any of y'all ever come encounter with some changelings, or any other thing? Fire is a great way to get rid of it. The amount needed may differ by species. I hear them coming in sounds through the street like a mob. I was definitely an unwanted guest, but fuck it. This makes it easier to determine who's good and bad, right? The ones chasing me are bad. I hope. I finish getting everything together and strap myself with as much explosives as possible. Now looking back, this wasn't a bright idea. What happened next was straight out of a fucking action movie. I made my way to the street to face the horde. The ringleader led the clan, and everyone paused, like an old western. The only thing I could think of at that moment was Tombstone, when Doc Holliday says, "I'll be your huckleberry." And as the words left my mouth, it began. I launched several Molotovs to create a perimeter to prevent them from charging in. As the last bottle opened up and ignited, I launched several spike bomb clusters their way. This will dwindle their numbers quite a bit and keep them distracted. I back up down the street to give some space. I need to lead them back to the big top, get as many of them inside as possible and torch it, and use the stragglers as a lead back to the den. I'm sure that's where I'll find all the children. How can I do it without making it obvious? Breadcrumb it. Breadcrumb it is a term we use when we utilize signals that the baddies can follow. For this instance, I will use fuel in fire. I can't move too fast or else they'll know I'm leading them. I throw another Molotov and move back. Let them feel like they're gaining ground. I do this little trick utilizing everything I got besides my flamethrower all the way to the big top. As I enter the tent, I move straight towards the back and I see them all flooding in. As they think they have me surrounded, I slit a hole in the back and pop out while torching it up. I got burned pretty bad. One of those little bastards grabbed a hold of my leg and tried pulling me back in. I wasn't having none of that, so I fed the son-bitch's arm with fuel and torched it off of me. The entire tent went up so damn quick, I honestly thought it would have taken a bit more. All of them were engulfed in flame, and all the while the flames fed into the forest. The trees started lighting, and soon enough the whole forest was engulfed. I noticed a few stragglers run off into the woods, assuming they were going for the nest. I gave chase, and as I followed, I had no choice but to phone in HQ and let them know of the shit show that happened. I couldn't contain the fire myself, and I needed to focus on saving the kids. I followed them to a cave entrance. I grabbed a burning stick and used it as a makeshift torch. Even though I have vamp blood running through my veins, their eyesight only works if there's moonlight. And there wasn't any of that shit in the cave. Now I saw them head deeper, so at this point, I don't need to be quiet. And I rushed forward and leapt onto the closest one to me. He put up a fight. Kinda. The superhuman subpar strength I had was enough to rip that bastard's head clean off his shoulders. His friend, on the other hand, came out of nowhere and jumped karate what the fuck kicked me square in the face. That shit hurt. My torch went flying, so it comes down to fisticuffs. Thank God I had Old Glory in all her shining grace. And I picked myself up and moved towards the torch so I could get a better look at this fuck. It was that same clown that gave me the popcorn, only this time, uglier. Its face was melting off, and you could see the under portion of what changelings really look like. It's fucking disgusting. He charged me with the ferocity of a wild animal. And I donned Old Glory and rammed it through the son-bitch's chest. Even with vampire strength, it takes a lot to punch through someone. And I pulled my arm out of the guy like he was a glove, and I tossed him into the ground. Just as he landed, I heard cries and coughs coming from the back of the cave. And I rushed back and noticed a room full of cages. I rushed through one by one, opened them, and all the kids plus myself were starting to succumb to the smoke from the fire. Now our best bet is to go to the farthest depth of the cave and cover up with the fireproof blankets I grabbed. I get all the kids hunkered down as I call into HQ, but I can't get a damn signal. The cave is filling with smoke fast, and I'm sure now the entrance is completely engulfed. One by one, the children start to pass out from lack of oxygen. And as the last child drops, start to get the dizziness and the faded eyesight. Everything begins to lose focus, and as I black out, I notice a bright white light as I collapse. And when I came to, there were agency vehicles all around and emergency staff tending to the children. My captain came to me to get my debrief. He handed my credentials back, told me to get back to work. And fuck that guy. I was supposed to be on vacation. All the children made it out, but who knows how many more of those bastards got away. I got the majority, I think, but no one can say for certain. Well, friends, I do appreciate you guys listening to these stories. Keep your head up and watch your six. Until next time, ciao. Hello again, everybody. Rosco here, with another case of mine. This one happened about a couple weeks after that circus of changelings went up in smoke. By the way, the townsfolk are fine. Most of the leftover changelings fled the town, and the agency has since caught all of them. There's a couple reformed ones working in HR now. This case is somewhat special to me, because these creatures, or spirits I should say, are pretty rare. The Pontianak is an Indonesian and Malay myth of a vengeful spirit of a woman who dies during pregnancy, who could transform into a young, beautiful woman and devour men. Well, it turns out this wasn't a myth at all. Now, before I get into the thick of it, I want to thank you all for supporting my memoirs. Many of you seem to enjoy this, and others also seem to send gifts. Particularly the gift box I received earlier this week. It had nothing but lube and a cornucopia of large vegetables within, and a loving letter telling me to go fuck myself. Thank you, but I made a salad instead. Now, the Pontianak in itself is practically untraceable, with the ability to change into flesh and vanish as a bitch to work with. Needless to say, I had to follow the trail of bodies. Oh shit, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind to where this all took place. Maybe some of you live there. If so, I recommend you getting the fuck out ASAP. If you're the male variety, that is. This job landed me in the cesspool that is Portland, Oregon. Now, if you're not familiar with their slogan, it's Keep Portland Weird. And let me tell you the crazy amount of supernatural that happens in that city. It's pretty traumatizing. Some of you may also be familiar with Stark Street, in more ways than one. And if you don't know, that's Portland's famous street for drag prostitution, at least on the surface. Dig in a little deeper and it's a haven for the supernatural. And that's exactly where I found myself. What's easier to hide in if you're a sexual monster than a supernatural prostitution ring? Now, if y'all are thinking I went in disguised as a John, you are horribly misled. I did go about asking questions, however, about all the disappearing men. I managed to run into a few leprechauns that were down on their luck. Now that's a sight to see. Fae folk tend to not want to be seen. I'll let your imagination cover down on that situation. I didn't get a single beat on this thing. No bodies or anything were found. Nobody was talking. Interrogation only works if I know the suspect has intel, so I can't just take some random off the streets and beat the shit out of them. I was left to stick it to good old-fashioned stakeout and just pop up. I did what I had to, and I got a shady hotel in that nasty street. And yes, I was approached by quite a few prostitutes of both variety, human and non. Normally, prostitution is illegal, even for those supernats that have integrated with society. But that's none of my business at the moment. I had a job to do. Now, not much is known of the Pontianak. They have long dark hair and red eyes, and appear mostly when there's a full moon. From when HQ is gathered, she's been appearing more frequently than that. Other than that, I have dick. The only option I got is to wait for another sad sack of shit to either die or I'd go get caught myself. As we all should be aware, I'm not keen on being caught. Now, surprisingly enough, what would normally work on ghosts also works on Pontianak. Salt, iron, burning their remains. Problem is finding the remains. What the agency cooked up instead is some sort of prison system for ghosts, kind of like Ghostbusters, without the dumbass lasers. It's a trap, but instead of a box, it's a hex. Yes, witchcraft is used to detain ghosts. Well, it's more of a sigil. That needs to be placed on their spirit to be put into a dormant state, so it can be transported to the holding facility. The sigil is made of iron encrusted with salts around the world. These are hexed by the agency's witchcraft and wizardry sector. And for you Harry Potter fans out there, no, you don't have a chance to go to Hogfarts or whatever the fuck the school's called. Anyways, the trick is going to be getting close enough to place the sigil on the Pontianak. Being it is ghost-like in nature, it'll be a bit of a bitch to apprehend. And that's why I came up with my own little toy. Well, used to be anyways. For the smart son of a bitch that invented the hula hoop, I thank you. Adding salt and iron on the inside is practically makes it a mobile detention center, and I get to play the most badass game of ring toss. Now, I've been told my methods are a bit unconventional, as I tend to have several casualties accompanying my solving the cases. As for Deputy 6 Feet Under, he knew what he was getting into. This time I'm going to need to use someone as bait. Being that I am staying in a shady hotel off the main drag, no pun intended, I will be needing to keep a close eye on those that come and go. Catch an eye on the frequent flyer miles, if you catch my drift. Nothing happens for the first few days. Yeah, I got stuck in that sleazy ass hotel for days. I'm not too fond of that neither. The only thing I saw was two leprechauns performing what I would assume is an act of depravity. To simplify it, one stood on top of the other one's shoulders and had a trench coat on. It was the freakiest shit I've seen in my life. That even beats the one time I broke up like an orgy. And I'm not disclosing details on that one. Just know it was by invite only. These gross ass shenanigans go on for several days till I spot the same guy in a pullover hoodie and sunglasses. Now what kind of douchebag dresses like the Unabomber? Someone trying to get Supernatch tail, that's who. Now I've spotted this guy showing up several times this week. We have found our frequent flyer. Now to go apprehend him. And of course I'm going to wear gloves. I've learned since my last sticky incident. Now, I sneak up behind him real smooth when he enters the alleyway behind the store called Spartacus. I think it's some sort of gladiator sportswear place. I don't know. I wrap my hand around his mouth to keep him quiet while holding my snub-nosed .38 caliber to his head. I had to inform him that I was of the police and I was under suspicion that illegal prostitution of sorts was being conducted behind this here sporting goods store. He held still for a bit, not saying anything when a gorgeous woman in a glistening red dress walks up to us from the shadows. She starts enticing me to let him go. While that's going on, I could feel the Unabomber of a man was holding on to squirm. This had got to be her. I mean, she doesn't fit the profile of the majority of the gross people around here. I let the man go while holding my gun on her. If it was the Pontiac, then I knew the gun wasn't going to do a damn thing. Well, it wouldn't if it wasn't loaded with salt-filled hollow point bullets. It won't kill her, but it'll slow her down. Now, I told the lady I needed to see some ID, to which she then turned into the demon spawn of a monster that she was. The look of surprise on her face when I didn't flinch was actually quite funny. That's when all of a sudden the Unabomber looking ass fuck pulled a gun of his own on me. Apparently, that's her pimp. Who would have guessed it? I don't have any of my special equipment with me at the moment, so the only thing I could do was give chase. I rushed the Unipimp and smacked the gun off his hands. I guess he was just an average guy. After I knocked the piss poor excuse of a pimp on the ground, the Pontiac gave chase. Luckily, my hotel was right across the way. All I had to do was lead her there. Sounds easy enough. Nope. She rushed me so damn fast and threw me into the alley wall, causing my revolver to fly way down the alley. Well, now I ain't got shit. And she's now in spirit form, so fisticuffs ain't gonna work. She's obviously faster than me, so running isn't gonna do it either. The only thing I could do was let her get close to me. Now she does this whole monologue thing too, telling me why she's here and decided to become a prostitute for the free food and all that jazz. Honestly, it would have been a great plan if it wasn't so damn sloppy. She slowly approached me. Now I could see the hunger in her eyes. She does offer me a quickie though before devouring me. What a sweetheart. Now, this is going to sound stupid to all of you, but this is probably the only other time that having vamp blood running through my veins was actually beneficial. I bit down on my tongue as hard as I could and filled my mouth with blood. Now she came at me. I spit as much blood into her mouth as I could. Immediately, she pulled back in disgust and began to gag. Yeah, not being 100% human is kinda cool, but that hurt like a son of a bitch. That bought me enough time to get back to the hotel room and grab my things. She gave chase and was pretty damn fast. She was on my ass like white on rice. As I made it to the front door of my hotel room, she charged me and knocked me on my ass like a linebacker. Her petite figure was a bullshit lie, I tell ya. Now I did my best to brush myself off and get back to my feet. She wasn't having any of that. She slipped on me like a raging animal and started tearing me apart. It was gruesome. She gouged in my chest and tore me up. There was nothing I could do about it, honestly. I was gonna fucking die. Well, I thought so anyways. Luckily there was enough oomph in the vampire blood I had in my veins to prevent that. She apparently didn't realize what I was, and that gave me an upper hand. And I woke back up in my hotel room. Blood all over the place, but other than that, I was fine. I got everything cleaned up. No doubt she was still working the alley with her pimp. I grabbed up all my gear and went in for round 2. Now, I wasn't taking any chances with the vamp blood again. It worked once. Who knows if it could again. Her pimp saw me first and tried to pull his gun. I shot him where he stood, right in his stupid fucking aviators. Immediately, I pulled out that hula hoop and ran down the alley. Found her working on a John in the alley, just going to town on him like she hasn't eaten in a month. I abruptly threw the ring around her throat and pulled back, causing her to fall back and trapping herself in the circle. She was pissed. Now, I gave her a speech about how I was just supposed to bring her into the agency so we could learn about her kind and potentially offer her a chance of rehabilitating her eating habits. I threw that option right out the fucking window. She's fucked. I didn't know how to kill her yet, but I have all the time in the world with her being trapped. This is where she started begging and pleading, saying that she just didn't have any other option. Bleeding heart sob story bullshit, honestly. If I couldn't kill her, I could sure as shit make it hurt. I managed to shackle her with some supernat shackles, and I dragged her to my car. Hell, I even let her ride shotgun. You know, it's been a while since I had a pretty lady ride shotgun. Now, I drove her to an undisclosed warehouse off the riverside. That's one thing I like about Portland. Plenty of places to do nefarious shit. I dragged her into the warehouse and chained her up in an old piece of machinery. This place looks abandoned enough. I grabbed a pickaxe and started breaking the floor. She had to let me know that she can't die, and I'm okay with that. What she wasn't aware of was that she was going to get put in a personal prison. And I dug that hole for 3 straight days. It was fucking deep. She looked like she had gotten weaker without feeding. Good. Killing random folks is kind of her thing. Killing me was a fucking mistake. I filled the hole halfway with salt and iron. Now that cost me a small fortune. Now I gave her a chance for last words. And as she started to talk, I just tossed her in. I didn't need to hear any more of that shit. I rented a cement truck and started to fill the hole. And yes, I stayed until it dried. I wasn't letting this bitch have time to escape. She's under at least 20 feet of concrete now. God only knows what she's got rattling on in her head. Probably something along the lines of, I'm hungry, and I am the worst concrete enema ever. Now, I caught a lot of heat from this case with the agency, but fuck them. I gave them my report of me getting killed. I did tell them that she escaped after that. I wasn't gonna disclose that I had her buried. Those assholes would have dug her up. If anyone from the agency listens to this, do me a favor. Keep your fucking mouth shut. That bitch could rot for all I care. Anyways, thank you all for listening. I got another call coming in. Keep your head up and watch your 6. Howdy folks, Rosco here. Just figured since we're through that 2021 bullshit, I would enlighten you all with this next story about some fucking spooky ass mirrors. Or at least certain mirrors. Now I know what you're thinking. Mirrors? Seriously? That's fucking dumb. But let me tell y'all, they ain't ones to fuck with. Not all mirrors are of the supernatural variety, but you can't be too certain. This here isn't about no ordinary type of mirror. Most mirrors can harness supernatural powers. Like that Bloody Mary y'all keep fucking with. Stop. She's no good for anyone. And every damn time you summon her, you die. She gets away from us. It's a goddamn pain in the ass. She doesn't come to just any mirror. It has to be one of the supernatural variety. These can be anywhere. I know what you're thinking. Why don't you summon her? Are you stupid? She clearly knows who's summoning her, or else she probably would have been busted by some dumbass ghost hunter show. Now this case started in Kentucky. It ended in Humboldt County, California. This is going to be the story of the in-between of these 2 points. Now, when I got to the scene in Kentucky, there was a slumber party massacre. Not that I knew it at the time, that it was Bloody Mary, but my assumption initially was a fang nest. as it was fucked up to look at. Thing is, everyone was dead in the bathroom. Damn kids really suck with makeup, or they are really bad at shaving. The only thing there that was different from most fang cases was a shard of glass missing from the mirror. Now I checked the surroundings for the crime scene but saw no shard. I decided to case the bodies. There was a translucent glaze on them, almost ghost-like. And of course, it's fucking ectoplasm, so it's not fang. I do what I can to clean up and call HQ to let them know it's not fang, but those dumbasses don't listen to reason and send me on my way to Colorado, where another similar incident had happened with what they assume is the same fang nest. Before I head my way to Colorado, I decide to break off a piece of that mirror. Call it a dumb fucking hunch, but I think it'll come in handy later. Now remember, this is before I knew that it was the said spirit, so this was honestly just a dumb hunch. On my way to Colorado, I stopped off on a gas station to relieve myself and grab provisions, but in the latrine, when I was washing my hands, I noticed a fogginess in the mirror, like something didn't want me to see it. I figured the mirror was just dirty because Texaco can't clean shit. And after I got my provisions, I hopped in my car and started to drive away, when I noticed a faint glare of a body in my side view mirror. It vanished almost as soon as I looked in its direction. I shrugged it off, as most tweakers freak out when they think they got caught. As the comedy gods would have it, I landed in South Park, Colorado. Honestly, I didn't think this place existed. Truth be told, it's uncanny to the cartoon. Quiet little mountain town filled with assholes. What's not to love? The scene that I was meant to oversee was at a Dorothy Withers house. Apparently, her daughter was also having a sleepover. Now, I'm the type of fella that thinks if it smells like and looks like and tastes like shit, it's probably shit. So I'm thinking the sleepovers are a huge tell on what's happening. What do underage girls do in a sleepover? They talk about boys, they have pillow fights, and they summon ungodly evils. What is the most popular one nationwide? Goddamn Bloody Mary. I case this crime scene and find nothing unusual besides another shard of the mirror missing. What the fuck? Same corner too. Now I checked the bodies, and just like the previous scene, their eyes were missing. Now, I'm not fancy on a lot of mirror game lore, but I know there's only a handful that cause immediate blindness due to your eyes being ripped out of their sockets, and that's gotta be Bloody Mary. I had to call this one into HQ. I knew this wasn't a finger nest now. I had to let them know that there is a chance Bloody Mary may be real. Now, of course, those dumbasses didn't believe me. Crazy old Rosco must have had his head hit one too many times. And of course they didn't believe me. Bloody Mary was just a folktale that kids made up to scare each other. And apparently, there is more lore on the bullshit game than there is on the real ghost. Fan-fucking-tastic. HQ decided to send me to Idaho. Nampa to be exact. Apparently, there was something similar going on there. I had no other option but to oblige and drag my sorry ass towards the west coast. If this was Bloody Mary, she has to be signaling me to go somewhere. But why with bodies? These poor kids didn't deserve this. I make the boring drive to Nampa, and lo and behold, it's a raunchy college town. It would normally be right up my alley, all the sex and alcohol that I could ask for, but no. What I got myself into here was a sorority pledge gone wrong. There's a few survivors, though, that didn't take part in the game. I had to question a few of them to see what exactly happened, and as sure as the sky is blue, they told me it was Bloody fucking Mary. Apparently, they put their pledges through this every year. This was the first time that shit went south. I had her point out any subtle differences in the year's pledge session. Apparently, one of the new girls brought a mirror from home that she did the ritual on. It was an ornate Victorian hand mirror. Obvious supernatural material. I confiscated it and bid her farewell. And I didn't bother checking the other mirrors in the house. This one had some bad vibes on it already. I didn't bother calling into HQ neither. Those jackoffs don't listen to reason anyways. I hopped in my car and got a hotel for the night. being on this case, I've hardly slept. So I thought it a good idea to get some rest. The next day after I shit showered and shaved, I decided to pull out that old ass mirror and give her a whirl. Maybe Mary will give me a clue on what the fuck is going on. I do the whole ritual shtick, and the mirror got all smoky. Not cloudy like fog, more like smoke from a fire. A mix of black and white smoke. Then a voice came from the mirror. It was faint, but it sounded like a little girl crying and calling out for help. Hold the fuck up. Does Mary need help? Seriously? She's been killing across the country, and now she wants my help? Sure, Mary, I'll bite. Because once I find you, I'm gonna put you down. I kept staring into the mirror hoping for a clue, and it panned out to a view of an old factory, then blazed through to a shot of a newspaper clipping. Factory burned down, no survivors. The important part of that is that it said Humboldt County. This bitch is sending me to the granola capital of the world. And as much as I hate California, I hate evil spirits more. So I packed up my shit and headed my way. Cutting through southern Oregon. Klamath Falls to be exact. Most farm community, but fairly nice downtown area if I say so myself. And after this shit is done, I might head there for a little R&R. When I make it to my new destination, I find myself in a shady-ass motel again. I get bunked in and rest after my travels so I can start my search for the factory in the morning. I go about town asking some of the local librarians about the factory fire and where I can find the remains. Told them I'm working for an editorial of a national paper on worst events in the nation. I got pointed to the outskirts of town. When I arrived, the factory looked like an empty husk of its former self. Charred metal and crumbling concrete is all I saw. I'm not much for urban exploration, and this place looked like it would crush me if I sneezed wrong. But this was where I was directed from that mirror bitch. And as I'm entering the skeletal facility, an eerie chill loomed. Yeah, I'm using the word loomed. Gotta make this sound fancy. Can't be kicking ass and taking names all the time. I gotta make this sound good for y'all. Anyways, when I crossed into the cold void that is the factory, the mirror I kept along me with the shards I collected started to vibrate. Yeah, this is fucking weird, even for me. It makes me wonder if the mirrors I took the shards from were vibrating as well. They shook violently in my pack. I had to pull them out, and once I did, they shattered. I can make a joke about Mary and vibrations, but that would be inappropriate. I'll let you guys do that. Once the shards landed on the ground, they started forming and molding together into a singular mirror. Okay, so, now what? I grabbed this giant mirror disc and I hold it out. Honestly, it reminds me of the disc from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. You know, the one where they go to heaven and God sends them to find station. If you haven't seen that one, yeah, it's a classic. Okay, I'm getting off track. I bring that up only to make this point, that it was like a map of the structure, more so an indicator, like the hot and cold game. It would shake harder the closer I walked a certain direction, and I made my way deeper into the factory following the vibrations, until all of a sudden they stopped. Great, it's fucking broken, or so I thought. I decided to try to summon her again through that mirror, and I caught a glimpse of her through the mirror, but it wasn't a ghost, nor a spirit. It was like a flashback. A group of men had taken her from her home and buried her here. Accusations of witchcraft caused this little girl to die. What the fuck? This isn't the witch trials anymore. Didn't look any older than the 1930s at most, so Mary was innocent. How do I explain the bodies? I looked around for a shovel and came across a maintenance section that seemed to be untouched by the fire. I opened up a wall locker and saw old newspaper articles of kids getting sick all across the county. A total of 150 kids died when they finally put blame on her. I found the shovel and I headed back to her grave. I dug up her remains and began to do what any sane person would do at that time. Salt and burn. You've seen the TV shows. That didn't get to happen. When I finished salting the bones, her skeleton took full form and knocked me on my ass. Yeah, innocence lost. Immediately I sprang to my sawed-off. No salt rounds this time, all buckshot. But when I went to take aim, she, or it, was gone. Yeah, accusations of witchcraft may have been correct, but now just released a corporeal form to the world. And I'm assuming she's gonna want revenge, and for that, I apologize. I don't know if she can regenerate like those mummy movies, but all I do know is that she is no longer haunting mirrors. Half a win is still a loss in my book. Still looking forward to his day. Nowadays, HQ likes to listen. So if you come across walking bones approximately 5 foot 5 inches in height, you know where to get a hold of me. As of right now, I got a call. And as always, tip your waitresses and watch your six. Until next time, ciao.
Hey folks, Rosco here again. Now this case is full of tomfuckery and shenanigans. Before I divulge what kind of cosmic shit show this ended up being, I would like to ask you all to please stop calling my office line and fangirling. Shit is embarrassing. No, I will not marry you for your citizenship, and no, I will not father your child. Pretty sure I'm sterile now anyways. And as the title would say, this wasn't about a specific entity. It was a rift. And if you don't know what a rift is, it's a tear in time and space. Some would call it a portal. Now there's no defining where the portal goes without going into it. That can be extremely dangerous, as you don't know if you can get back out. I was not dumb enough to waltz through it. Well, the me of this time period, that is. You see, the rift wasn't to another plane of existence, really. It's more of an alternative dimension. And for all you science nerds out there, yes, this kind of proves string theory. And if you believe me or not, I truly don't give a fuck. This wasn't technically an official case handed down from the agency. I stumbled onto this by pure accident, which was kind of a relief, as the current cases the agency has was observe and report bullshit that desk jockeys mostly handle. I was on an observe and report case literally just to pass time, as this was a slow time for the agency. So at least my R&R didn't get disrupted this time. I was up in the mountains somewhere in Colorado. Can't quite remember the exact coordinates, but it was just past Black Hawk, in some random ass place with nothing but a cabin we posted up there. Now to some, this would be a great retreat, but the job was to literally observe and report the forest and mountains, and make sure there wasn't any supernatch happening. Most of the time, it's a boring ass job. This time, however, during one of my morning strolls into the lookout, I noticed what I could only describe as a slit. Nothing at all like what the TV shows show you, but just a cut in reality. Like it was opened surgically with precision. Nothing was falling into it, there was no gravitational pull or nothing, just an opening with reality immediately surrounding it, flapping like paper in the wind. First instinct was to grab a staple gun from the cabin and patch this shit up and go about my day, but curiosity was a dumb bitch that day. I stepped closer to check it out, slowly approaching the slit, and sure as shit, out popped the most handsome motherfucker I've ever seen. Me. Well, not me, but that place is me. And for prosperity reasons, I immediately pulled out my audio recorder and recorded our interaction. Sweet mother Jesus fuck!
Fucking A.
Agreed. Well, where the fuck did you come from?
That hole, dumbass. Didn't you just see me walk out?
No shit, Columbo. What's on the other side?
If I had to guess, it's my reality, and this one is yours.
Okay. Well, first, I'm not surprised. And second, get the fuck back in there.
Now hold your damn horses. I'm investigating this damn wormhole. I got a fucking job to do.
Wait, you're from the reality where I actually walked into that fucking thing?
What inverted crown did you use to draw that conclusion, numbnuts? No shit. It's pretty apparent, isn't it?
Well, color me purple and put me on the predator list. This should get reported, huh?
That's not recommended. That's what I did. Now, on the other side of that rift, there is an entire battalion of agents waiting for some bullshit to happen. Last thing we need is your agency to do the same and have a standoff. We both know how impulsive those jack-offs can get. I had to volunteer to enter so they wouldn't just blow it up. So be fucking happy I'm here.
Well noted. So what now, genius? You stay put out here until the thing closes on you?
I'm still figuring that part out. Hate to say it, but I'm gonna need your help.
Nah, fuck it. I was bored anyways. This is where I cut the audio for now. I took him back to the cabin to go over planning and get gear together for his return. They won't take his word for it and infiltrate that rift on his return, if they don't blow his ass up first. Our ass? I don't know. It's a bit confusing. The plan so far is jack shit, and Jack left town. We decided to sleep on it. The agency won't do shit until he comes back through. And if that agency is keeping the rift on lockdown, there's no availability of recon, for my sake anyways. When we got up in the morning, I decided to record more audio.
Got any food in this shithole?
MREs, courtesy of the agency.
Shit. At least my agency keeps the place stocked.
Quit your bitching. You'll be able to go back to your cozy little cabin after this bullshit is done.
Speaking of which, did you come up with anything?
Well, I can't call it in the HQ, and I can't leave post until relief comes and takes over the position. So if we wait that long, it might as well be over. So we're on a bit of a time crunch.
Yeah. And how long is that?
3 days max. There's an agency outpost down in Blackhawk disguised as a pizza place. And I got a buddy, or we got a buddy down there.
You got a buddy, maybe? I've never bothered with those fucks.
Okay, regardless. Maybe he can help.
How the fuck is he supposed to help?
If I had to make an educated guess, and me not being an educated man, I'd say your agency isn't nearly as technologically advanced as ours, as all your defense spending is on comfort and not ass kickery.
Well, you got me there. My agency uses the more classic way of dealing with the supernatural. Hexes, spells, runes, you name it.
Well, what I got to show you then will make you shit your pants. I cut the audio here again to save memory space. I did show him a few of the things I swiped from HQ, and to be truthful, he didn't quite shit his pants, but the need to arose, I'm sure. He was like a kid on Christmas, oohing and awing at everything I showed him. I'd have told him that if my buddy could get a hold of a few things, we could sneak him through and close the rift simultaneously. Now, I know it sounds easy, right? Well, it wasn't. I managed to get a hold of Marcus and had told him I saw something weird, not wanting to alarm him of the rift just yet. I need to coax him up here first. He would lose his shit if he knew of another me. A little backstory on Marcus, I think, is needed for you to understand what kind of character we're dealing with. He's a paranoid schizophrenic, the good kind. Only minimal violent outbursts. When it happens, he usually ends up with us grabbing a beer and chuckling a bit. He has consistent hallucinations, so half of what we deal with in the agency, he even finds hard to believe. Luckily, he is one smart son of a bitch and developed a set of glasses kind of like looking through the camera of a phone. He puts them on whenever he's thinking he's having a visual hallucination. And like I said, he's smart. He also develops a lot of different technologies not approved by the agency, so I test them out for him from time to time, whenever I'm in the area. He's the one that showed me how to make the vamp trank during the Eleanor case. Paranoia part of this diagnosis I don't think comes from his schizophrenia, honestly. Because every time he has a paranoia episode, some bitch is right. I consider it a gift. Honestly, if it wasn't for this man, I'd probably be Wendigo shit by now. I managed to just tell him I was in town at the cabin and was bored out of my mind, and if he had anything new, I'd be up for testing it out. He obliged excitingly and said he had a new photon grenade he hasn't quite perfected, but maybe I can help him work out the kinks. That sounds like a fucking blast, honestly, both figuratively and literally. Now, after I got off the phone with Marcus, I looked over at me and told him he needed to answer the door and pretend to be me. That way, he will only get suspicious of me when he sees two of us. Also, it'll be fucking hilarious. We waited a solid 2 hours waiting for Marcus to make it up the mountain. He liked coming up here. It was usually a night of testing and drinking with the occasional blowing shit up, whether it's supernatural or just making a crater. And when he finally arrived, I dug into the back room and listened in on the other me answering the door. Turned on my audio recorder for this one.
Jesus, Marcus. What took you so damn long?
Who the fuck are you? What did you do with Rosco?
What the fuck are you talking about?
He never uses my name. Who the fuck are you? You've got about 3 seconds.
I cut the audio and cut him off mid-sentence as I popped out and yelled, "Surprise!" He didn't think it was funny as he took a shot at me. Must have spooked him a bit, but damn, it was funny. I knew he would have called out the other me in a heartbeat. I had to calm him down and told him the real reason why I had to have him come up here. Told the other me to hang tight as I took Marcus to the rift and explained to him that the other me came through it. He didn't seem as shocked as I expected him to be. Apparently, these have been opening up all around. They just never stayed open long enough to cause a ruckus. This one in particular seems to be the anomaly. I then had to tell him about the other agency on the other side of the rift about ready to go to wage war on whatever crosses. That's when he got nervous. So now we head back to the cabin for planning and hit the record button on the audio device. Alright, now that we're all up to snuff, what do y'all propose we do?
Well, it would be smart to get the other Rosco home and get the agency away.
Body armor. Can't we just dress him up with some heavy-ass armor and put him through?
Fuck that, let's try not getting shot at all.
That's not the hard part. The hard part's getting you over there without them blasting your ass back through the rift before you get to close it. What about cloaking? Like invisibility? Granted, I can't change your biomolecular structure, but maybe drape something over you to make you invisible.
Like Harry Potter.
Yes, exactly. But not prepubescent. I know the agency has a gel-like substance they are testing to help vehicles cloak, like a paint job that is activated through electrical currents. It's supposed to bend light around it to give the illusion of invisibility. It's actually quite...
That's all fine and dandy, but how the hell do we get the substance, and what do we charge it with?
I have some of the testable substance back at my station.
You swiped it from the agency? I couldn't be more proud.
What? It looked cool.
Hey, while you homely looking fuckers are oohing and ahhing, how about we figure out how to charge it?
Leave that to me, you damn crybaby. The recording stops there. Apparently I ran out of space, which really sucks, because what happens next is fucking hilarious. Marcus headed back to get this substance while I dig through the trunk of my car for my taser. Holy shit. The look on the other me's face when he saw it was the greatest thing I've ever seen since that lichen orgy in Toronto. Told him it would have been this or my car battery, as it was the only other battery operated thing that we had other than cell phones, and I wasn't giving up my phone for nothing. Once Marcus made it back, we lighted up the other me and the gel substance. Man, was it weird feeling myself up in the third person. Disgusting, kinda. I handed him the taser and said, "Crank it and shoot himself in the chest as you cross. This should buy you enough time to make it through. As for closing the rift, we figured we'd just destroy it by testing the photon grenade. Should have enough energy to vaporize it." We shook sticky hands as he headed that way. He crossed through, and after a while, when we didn't hear any blazing gunfire, launched one of those photon bombs next to it. The only thing that happened was a bright flash of light and the rift disappeared. Kinda uneventful, honestly. He was gone, but the grenade wasn't exploded. I asked Marcus to see if I could keep it as a souvenir. He didn't seem to mind. Once my time at the cabin was finished, I went back home for a weekend. Not remembering the grenade in my pack, I went to go take a shower. When I came out, the rift was opened up in my living room. Apparently the photon grenade was acting like a storage device to the gateway. Holy shit, I have a personal portal. That's kinda badass. Assuming that this portal is also open in the other me's house, so I had to walk in. Fucker was passed out on his lazy boy, so I did what any gentle asshole would do. I raided his fridge for a beer, woke his ass up. Shit. I still see the other me every other month. We'll catch up for a beer and talk about subtle differences between our cases. Whoever would have thought that I would be my own best friend. Till next time, folks. Remember to tip your waitresses and watch your six. Ciao. Hey everyone, Rosco here. Apparently everyone loved these stories so much I had been asked to partake in this here collaboration. Just to freshen things up a bit, I will not go into my memoirs for this here project. This is a fresh story that just happened to me recently, so strap your boots and get your pants. This is gonna get gritty. This was some fuckery to the imagination. To put it lightly, I was dead center of some supernatural drug cartel. Being the part temporary vamp I am, the agency decided it was smart for my white bread ass to go undercover. Now, not to play spot the difference, but I stuck out like a sore thumb. However, I did manage to make it work. To get into the thick of it, I was attached to a zombie regiment. Now, these aren't your typical Hollywood zombies. There's no rotted carcass or hunger for brains. Just some ordinary people who were once dead and now they're not. I wonder if Deputy God Rest His Soul would make a comeback. Now, I need to mention that even though these look like regular folk, they do have a few telltale signs. Loss of pigment in the eyes and skin, an aggressive anger management problem, and the smell. I mean, they are still technically dead, so that one shouldn't surprise you. What brought me to this case was a series of drug-related deaths happening in LA. I know, it's cliche. But this wasn't a normal drug. This one rose people from the dead. Hence the reason why I get stuck with a bunch of stiffs. No pun intended. I happened to get recruited by a man of the name Henry Cortez. He ran the port sector for the cartel. Henry wasn't a zombie, nor is he any other form of the undead. He was an Oni. Yeah, a Hispanic Oni. I don't judge. Apparently, Onis are notorious for getting into the drug business. I would have assumed in a more pharmaceutical way, but that's neither here nor there. So here I am at the port, hauling crates of supernatural booger sugar, and I happen to see a couple of the Zed break open a case and partake in the powder. Funny enough, they died. Again. They also came back. Again. I decided to take matters in my own hands, and I grabbed a wrench from on top of one of them there crates and started bashing them in their heads. That's when Henry caught me. Now, I had to come up with an alibi fast. What would a supernatural sub-boss want to hear if they found out that some of their workers were stealing product? Oh yeah, I told them that I caught them stealing product, so I did them in. I wasn't about to let some jackoffs ruin my career. Apparently, that was the right thing to say. Hell, I even got promoted to thug. A supernatural knee breaker, if you will. I felt like a real Tony Soprano. That's a hell of a story. Rosco joins the mob. That may happen if things with the agency go south. This is where I wanted to be, next to the honcho himself. Now, it would be foolish to think I could take down the mob, but a sub-boss, that shouldn't be an issue. I ran a few jobs for Henry, getting funds in less than desirable ways from previous business partners. I was good. Really good. It only took me a couple days to climb the corrupt corporate ladder. I became Henry's right-hand man. Funnily enough, I started to actually like the guy. He had a wife and kids. They even invited me over for dinner a few times. His wife makes an amazing stew. And yes, they are also of the supernatural variety. Now, as an agent, I don't just kill monsters, only the bad ones. These regular folks seem to keep in their lane well enough that we don't need to intervene. However, Henry was a mob boss. He had to get taken down. So, one day, we were driving around, and I had to lay into him the truth bomb. He wasn't too happy about that. He drove us to an undisclosed location that was used to dispose of bodies. Now, this is where the story gets pretty fucking crazy. He had told me this wasn't his first run-in with the agency. When he was starting his drug running, he worked as a distributor where he frequented a hotel to sell his goods. He apparently got away that night Rosco Jr. had died. Somehow, that battered carcass I had put into the ground was someone else. The rage came back after he chuckled about killing that agent's dog. He went on how he was gonna do the same to me. Lo and behold, I was that fucking agent. And now, it was time to even the score. This time, I came prepared. I brandished a golden blade that has been blessed in the blood of a Shinto priest.
Ethnic background or not, it only dies the same way. As he went for his gun, I jammed that knife square into his chest as I whispered, "This is for Rosco Jr., you cultural appropriated fuck." His eyes widened as he fell to the floor. That's when I decided to call into HQ, told them about what happened. I got pulled from the case after that. At least now I could feel rest assured that the bastard who killed Junior had been put down. Junior, buddy, if you're still watching over me, I got him. It ain't enough to bring you back, but I got him. Side note, it was enough to get him back. Apparently that drug also works on dogs. He's a bit more decomposed than I'm used to, but I got my buddy back. Bestest bud I could ever have. Well, it's getting to be Junior's time for his nightly walk. Y'all take care now. This is Rosco, signing off. Hello, folks. Rosco here again. This isn't gonna be the normal case file story. In the grace of Christmas, I got my best buddy back. And that's a tale you'll need to find on BN's channel when she decides to release it. For this story, I want to tell you why I believe in Santa Claus and his less than desirable counterpart, Krampus. Mostly Krampus. Yes, this is a holiday story, and in the most festive way possible, I would like to disclose that jolly old Saint Nick is a fucking douchebag. Oh yeah, before I get deep in the shit, I want to thank that PA Nightmares fella for giving my memoirs a bigger outreach. You're doing this world a service, and your voice is pretty spot on. The more people who know the crazy supernatch out there, the better. This happened while I was on R&R. Took a trip out to Europe for the holidays. Even stayed at a hostel. Now I was quite bummed when it didn't turn out like the movie. The sex part, not the murdering. Anyways, I was staying in a little sleepy Bavarian village. It was quite nice. Believe it or not, they actually like tourists. Well, what I didn't know was that they hold a holiday festival with people in costumes of Saint Nick and Krampus. It was pretty fun. There was booze all over the place. There was this one Santa Claus that was a bit belligerent, to put it lightly. That drunk bastard was picking fights with everyone, including myself. Now, you all might hate me for this, but I beat the living shit out of drunky Santa Claus. You don't get to put hands on anyone, let alone me. That's what kinda got me into this pickle. Later that night, when I nestled myself in bed, I was visited by Santa. The real Santa. Not that I knew it at the time. I thought the bastard wanted a round two, so I got up and got ready for it. That's when he spoke. He told me I've been a bit of a dick lately, and I needed to calm my shit down. Stop the senseless killings, because it's not what he wants me to do. And to teach me a lesson, he has Krampus whoop my ass. Again. I didn't think this was the real Saint Nick, so I Spartan kicked the shit out of his chest, just on principle. That was a mistake. He brushed it off and gave me that tisk, tisk, tisk while waving his finger. Suddenly, he Sith Lord Lightning bolted my ass. That fucking sucked. And this was way before the vamp blood, so it was a bit of a bitch to recover. And that's when that Hooven monstrosity stuffed me in a knapsack. I was blacked out from the pain, so I have no clue what happened immediately after that. I was partially conscious as I was coming to, and it seemed I was taken to a weird village. The village was filled with dwarves, pointy ears, and all that jazz. I was left splayed out in the center of town on a brick circle with a pole in the center of it. Okay, hold the fuck up. This was the North Pole. The goddamn North Pole. And that was the real Santa. Guy's a bit of an asshole.
I woke up butt-ass naked, and it was cold. Really fucking cold. Not gonna lie, I'm probably on the naughty list forever after this. I rushed to an alleyway and mugged an elf for their jacket. Yeah, I did that, and I'm not sorry. I made a makeshift loincloth out of it, so my junk didn't catch frostbite. Being the tallest person in town also has its perks. Like I could see over all the huts and the buildings in town. Had to get on my tippy toes to do it, but still, it was neat. Now, I need to find that jolly old fat fuck and get myself out of here. Sure enough, that bastard's house stands out like a sore thumb. It was a normal-sized home. I'd say about the size of a 4-bedroom Midwestern. House. Compared to the village, though, it was a fucking mansion. Shit, the doghouse was bigger than most of the huts. And guess who I found in that goddamn doghouse? Krampus. Yeah, being locked up like a damn pet. Some Nordic demigod is being treated like shit by the big fat man. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Krampus is evil. How can you be so sure about that? Seems to me he's just doing the fat man's dirty work so he can keep a good image in front of the kids. I did what any sensible man in a loincloth would do. I freed the beast, and not in a sexual way. I took Krampus off his leash. Surprised it's not magical. No witty incantation to remove it or nothing. He was able to stand up and stretch and gave a good chuckle. He thanked me in a voice I'd never thought he would have had. It was like those chipmunk cartoons back in the day. For a big burly monster looking thing, he was a pussycat. Nicest demigod I've ever met. He stood about 7 foot flat, give or take a few inches. He was a tall son of a bitch. I had told him I was looking for a way to get back home, or at least back to my hotel room. Apparently, Christmas had already passed, so Saint Fat Ass ain't going anywhere for a while, and his reindeer are on holiday, so that's out of the question. The best bet would be sneak into the house and try to find that magic sack the old fat fuck uses to transport an infinite amount of goodies in. Now I'm assuming it's the same sack that was used to bring my ass here. Apparently, if we could harness enough fire in the bag, we could use it to jetpack our asses out of here. Sounds like a fucking cartoon, honestly, but hell, what other option do I got? Now, getting to that Santa sack is going to be a doozy. I gotta break into that fat fuck's home. Being scantily clad in a loincloth, I don't have any of my gear with me, so it's going to be old-fashioned POW tactics, I suppose. I find a little metal toothpick looking thing on the ground near one of the huts. Might have been a tool for the smaller folk of the residents. And I used that to pick the lock on St. Asshole's home. Slid into the house and closed the door behind me, leaving Krampus outside for surveillance. That fat ass was passed out in front of his fireplace with a bottle in one hand and a cigar in the other. Would be a shame if this bastard had an accident. I decided not to kill him, on behalf of all the kids in the world, even though he had it coming. I slid past him into a bedroom. I was amazed at what I saw. Butt naked Mrs. Claus, and she was a looker. She just gotten out of the shower when she noticed me. She didn't scream or anything. She just shot me a glare, and I covered my eyes, partially, while she got dressed. I don't want to get into details, but apparently she took her chance to be with Santa after her modeling career started to flop. Good on her, I suppose, but she has to be aware that she's married to a psycho. I told her I was just trying to get back home, and if she knew any of that and if she knew anything of the magic sack, not the one that resides between his legs. She pulled the bag out of the closet for me and bid me adieu. I tipped my imaginary hat at her and I leapt out the window. Couldn't afford to go out the way I came. I managed to make my way back to Krampus and told him we needed to hurry. Old Fatty might be waking up soon. I hopped on his back as we sprinted around town, gathering up all the flame we could. When we heard Saint Asshole yelling, he chased after us, but it was already too late. We both straddled that sack like we were cold prom dates, and ripped open the back, letting that magic flame blast out of there. Even managed to burn off all the hair off that fat fuck's face. He's sporting a fake beard now. We rode that sack all the way back to my hotel room. It was brilliant, but now I'm stuck with a huge hairy monster. I told him to hang tight while I got dressed, and then we could figure out how to get him back home. When I finished getting dressed, he vanished. Left the sack for me, though. I suppose he's hiding in Europe now. I haven't seen the guy since. As for me now, Santa hasn't bothered coming back for me yet. Doesn't mean he will, but just as an extra precaution, I had the sack open at the bottom of my chimney in case he decides to try and pay me a visit. Well, kids, this has been fun. Remember to tip your waitresses and don't fuck with a mall Santa. It may be the real one. Until next time, ciao.